Our final speaker for this session. Her name is Daisy Bility. She's a drag queen who uses her art to advocate for disability. This has been a fabulous session. Really enjoyed it. Take it away, Daisy.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here. I don't really have much planned. I spent all my preparation time trying to beat my face. So I am just gonna kind of talk off the cuff, but I am just really excited to be a part of this event. Thank you to Nate, to Carter, to everyone involved with Stripes of Solidarity because it's been incredible and these stories have been deeply empowering and inspiring. And for the past year, to give a little bit of background, I've been traveling abroad, which I'm excited to talk about a little bit in this presentation because I kind of want to focus on global queer activism and recognizing that we are not alone in our fight for queer justice. But so for the past year, I've been traveling all around. And that means that Nate has had to text me in many different countries in many different time zones. So I am glad that I was able to finally make it. And I'm so happy to be a part of this great community. I guess for a little bit of an introduction, I'll talk a little bit about my diagnostic journey before then later getting into art and activism. So my name is Daisy, but my boy name is William. And whenever I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with fibrous dysplasia, which is a rare bone disease that causes benign bone lesions throughout my body, but mainly my lower limbs, so my legs. And in fact, my doctor's appointment that I get yearly is next week. So this is kind of both a distraction and preparation for that. But my disease really limits my ability to be mobile and causes a lot of chronic pain. And for a long time, I didn't embrace this identity. I didn't embrace my rare disease. I didn't embrace my disability. It was something that I was kind of embarrassed of and a little ashamed, a lot like my sexuality at the time. And it's kind of funny how the same time I came out as disabled was the same time that I started to come out as gay. And I think a lot of times we don't really talk about this intersection that coming out as disabled and coming out as gay work together in a lot of ways and mirror each other very similarly. So for example, someone who comes out as gay may lose the support that they have for their disability, whether that's insurance to their parents or other types of support or caretakers that they need in their lives. Similarly, coming out as disabled is equally as difficult at times because people don't understand. And a lot of times in queer romantic relationships, coming out as disabled can actually steer people away. At least that's something I've experienced in the gay community and something that I think we need to talk more about, having those conversations more openly. So it wasn't until I came out in college that I kind of started to dabble in the art of drag. My boyfriend at the time did drag, so I was like, let me learn how to do the makeup. And I started playing with my drag identity and created this idea of Daisy-bility, which combines both my queer identity with my disabled identity for activism. And I think looking at activism as an art form is an interesting perspective because whether you do art as your activism or you do the typical type of activism, like going to Congress, both of those are different art forms in and of themselves. And I think looking at it as art allows us to see it more as something that feeds us as much as we give to it. So a lot of times I like to think of my activism as my art and my art as my activism. And so for the past year, I've been on a stipend from Vanderbilt University to research drag queens globally. So I've traveled everywhere from Japan, Cambodia, Thailand, China, Taiwan, Philippines, Germany, France, Netherlands, UK, all over. There's still many places I need to get to, including places in the global south that I hope to get to in the next year or so. But this opportunity to look at a cross section of drag globally has really exposed me, one, to the beauty of drag as an art form, but two, to the power of activism through drag. For example, in the Philippines, it was recently their not presidential election, it was recently their congressional elections for Senate, for midterm elections. And when I was there, almost every drag queen was involved with political activism. And to a level that does not even compare to the US. A lot of drag queens in the US are involved in activism. But when I say every drag queen in Manila, Philippines, was protesting and campaigning for political contestants, they truly were. And I think this speaks to the power of drag as an art form and the power of art to bring about active change. And so I think as we continue to evaluate our queer identities, our art, we should continue to think of how we can use it as a way to inspire political change. Because yes, the act of drag itself is political, but we can do more than just put on makeup to enact change. So I really enjoyed that opportunity to travel globally. And what I most enjoyed was seeing the joy and love that is present in the global queer community. Because whether it was the Philippines, whether it was China, whether it was Cambodia, whether it was the UK, drag queens and queer people in general were bonded together through our shared strife and fighting together for difference. And I think the joy that we were able to find in those communities really speaks to this global effort. Because a lot of times we think of just America because we have it really tough at the moment with the current administration. But I think it's time to stop looking at America through this microcosm of just us as the rise of fascism, because fascism from the right has been rising all over the world. And so the more we talk about it from a global perspective, I think the more we'll be able to bring about change because both fascism in the US affects globally, but also global trends of fascism are affecting politics in the US. So I think we should talk more about the global impact of our current administration and of the right. So overall, though, I really want to spend a lot of time talking about joy because I think policy is very important. But as this is a pride event and as I am a drag queen, I just want to be happy and to really relish in that happiness because that is where we really bring about change. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I don't really know. I'm just kind of rambling. I just like to talk. It's kind of my thing. But I am just so happy to be here. And I think that together we can really bring out a real change. And I just want to remind everyone that, whether it's through your art or through just existing, like your existence is really making a difference. And I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for the impact that our existence and our taking up space has. So just remember to take up that space, to be your authentic self, to embrace yourself, whether it's in a wig and crazy makeup, or it's just waking up out of the bed in the morning. It does not matter. Just embrace it. In fact, I'm wearing Mudang pajamas right now, which I don't know if that's still a trend, but I love Mudang and that's me and that's my queer identity and I'm embracing it. So you should embrace it too, no matter how crazy it gets. That's basically my message. If you have any questions, I would love to have a conversation. Um, but yeah, Mudang pajamas.
Daisy, that was not rambling at all. Yeah, you hit all the points and it was fantastic. Um, and I just thank you for being able to be here. Uh, I, yeah, it was, first of all, I'll open the floor for questions, for Daisy, but truly amazing, Daisy. And I did not know that you went to all those places. I know you were like out, but I didn't know you were like, that's a lot. The list was going. I'm jealous. I need to figure out when my schedule will allow me to travel to all those places.
I don't know, my body, my rare disease body is tired and exhausted. So this week has been repair. So that's also why my brain is scattered. So we're just gonna focus on the pajamas and the look. But yeah, the rare disease is a pain when it comes to travel. So I'm glad to have a break.
Yeah, definitely can relate to that. Any questions for Daisy? Any comments?
I have so many questions and comments. Shout out favorite drag queen. If Netflix had followed you with a camera, would watch the shit out of that.
Oh,
Because this whole journey just sounds fantastic. But I want to know more about like some of the drag queens you met along the way. Like you were talking about like the folks in Manila and some of their activism. Like I literally just want you to like talk more about all the cool drag shit you saw.
That I really wanted to in the whole presentation, but then I was like getting overwhelmed because there's so many good ones. I really want to put together like a TikTok series, so you can follow me at Daisy Bility on TikTok and Instagram, because that will be coming up this summer because I have nothing else to do but edit videos. So I will be talking more about people who I've seen and met when traveling and interviewed. But a little bit about the Philippines is that I really enjoyed their collectives. So in Manila, there's a specific collective, and I'm going to shout them out. They're called Harong Queens, and they are my besties, to be honest. They meet every Wednesday and they focus on activism. So they watch a movie at the beginning, have a discussion with someone related to the movie. It's usually something political, could be something focused on race, on queerness, on sexuality. So they meet every Wednesday and then they do drag performances after that usually have like a really political activist theme. So I remember seeing like people have Marsha P. Johnson like in the background of their videos. But the most impacting performance that I saw, one of the most during my whole travels, was by my favorite drag queen. One of them is Gabriela Shilong. She did a performance based off of this case in the Philippines where a foreigner murdered a trans woman within Manila. And it was a really powerful performance where she was able to use Lady Gaga's song Blade of Grass to kind of show this message of like torment and the pressure that trans people go to, especially by foreigners in the Philippines. But kind of ended it on this note of like, fighting back. And she played videos of the trans woman that was murdered during her performance. And it was a really heavy performance, but it was immensely powerful, especially with someone who wasn't familiar with the case beforehand. And this was right after the former president of the Philippines got arrested by the ICC, and he was responsible for letting the foreigner responsible go. So it was a really heavy time politically in the Philippines. And I think it was a really powerful performance that kind of spoke that like drag doesn't just have to be like humor. Drag can very much be something very serious and deal with topics that are very traumatic. And I think that's where the power of art really comes in, because I love RuPaul's Drag Race, and I think it's a great way to like spread queerness and spread joy. But it's time that we start thinking of drag in a more umbrella sense and recognize like alternative drag, but also like really powerful, heavy activist drag. And so that's one of my favorite examples when traveling. And I hope to talk more about it on my TikTok series. So definitely stay tuned.
any other questions for Daisy?
I'm just infinitely curious about this, but like the international perspective of the United States and how this silly, silly country of ours is doing things right now, because I'm sure that there's a lot to talk about.
I was really excited to talk about this, to be honest. I was talking about it with my dad yesterday while the girls were fighting on Twitter. I don't know if y'all saw that. Thank you, AOC. I I thought it was really interesting because there were some people who had really negative perceptions of the US.
Hmm.
The majority of people had pretty, I would say, fair representations of the US, because they recognize that, we have really bad political ongoings at the moment, but they recognize that they were going through the same thing. I'm thinking of my friends in Germany.
Hmm.
I spent a lot of time around people in Germany, and got really close to a lot of them. And recently, in the past year, they had an election, and there was a real fear that the alt-right party would really take a lead And it didn't as much as they thought, but it still came in like third or fourth place, which is something that's scary and kind of speaks to this global rise of fascism. And also still the implications of US global policy during the Cold War kind of has to do with this German concept as well. So it was interesting though to come kind of talk about this solidarity that we have as just people living globally during this time. Because while some people may just be like, oh, the US is terrible, most people recognize that, we're kind of all facing this issue. And sadly, this may only be the beginning from a global standpoint. So we really have to stand up at this point in time, or it will only be the beginning of a domino effect that will follow the rest of the world. So I think it's something that's kind of scary, to be honest, but I really enjoyed this global solidarity, and I think it kind of spoke to this community that we've cultivated. And I think it's something to remember whenever we face those harsh times, is that other people are facing them as well, and that we really do have our power in numbers. And so I thought that was the most interesting when traveling, because people really seem to be sympathetic to us in the US.
I think it's incredibly cool too, because especially what's going on this weekend, it's not just, it's World Pride, right? And so it's an opportunity for the world to come together. But I've also been just kind of morbidly curious of, well, are other, individuals that want to participate but are in other countries, do they feel comfortable and confident coming to the United States for this? Like, does the US even feel like a remotely safe space to be in for a variety of reasons right now? So, but I think that the way you put it, like a fair assessment is, that's what we can hope for at this point, is just that notion of, hey, it's not cool what's going on, but we've been there. We're going through it right now to some degree or in some way, shape, or form. So it's kind of like that solidarity and that connecting factor.
Yeah, and to kind of speak on that part of your comment, is I do think there's many people who want to come to the US
Yeah.
and experience different things but are terrified. So I definitely think it's something that we should continue to advocate for, because I know even in the planning of my rare disease conference next year, that's something that we're having conversations of, because some people may have posted anti-Trump things online, so they're scared that when they come to immigration, what's going to happen. Even I was scared when I came to immigration, so I can't imagine being someone without the US passport having to go through that process, because also our immigration border security is the strictest, I think, in the world. People were so nice all around, and then you get to JFK and they're so mean. So I think that's also something that we should talk about, just in general, because people could be very nicer even if the system's messed up, but they are not.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Thank you so much, Daisy. And I'm excited for this list, because these are things like I want us to be able to address these things, and I appreciate you for bringing those things to the table.
Thank you.